and welcome to highlights of the 1994 Canadian Grand Prix, brought to you by Mircoprose and GP2Joey. We're in North America for the first time in this dramatic season as the Formula 1 circus heads to Montreal and the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, named after Canada's legendary racing hero. With a second of 3 safety changes designed to slow the field starting this weekend, the cars are fitted with a mandatory engine cover cutout to reduce engine power by at least 80 horsepower. Ayrton Senna was the winner last time out in Spain after a controversial race where the Williams-Renault driver benefited from pre-race hot favourite and eventual third-place finisher and rival Michael Schumacher's Benetton Ford being embroiled in several instances with the Ferrari of Britain's Joey Davis, who was being lapped whilst the German's teammate Heinz-Harald Frentzen took a fine second. Despite the fallout after the Barcelona race, Schumacher remains on top in the Drivers' Championship, leading Senna by only 4 points, with Frentzen third ahead of Senna teammate Damon Hill and the Ligier Prost owner Alain Prost, with Davis languishing in 6th, now 48 points off the lead after a dismal showing in the last round. In the Constructors' standings, Benetton lead Williams by 15 points, with Ligier Prost leapfrogging Ferrari, who slipped to 4th, now a massive 87 points away from the top, whilst McLaren extend their lead over Sauber in 5th. In the news leading up to the race, Benetton appeared at the governing body headquarters in Paris after the Spanish Grand Prix, where incredibly the FIA found the team guilty of using the banned traction control system in 1994. Immediately, Benetton lodged an appeal, confirming that as the hearing wouldn't happen for another month, they would then be free to race in Canada this weekend under appeal. Davis was then sensationally found guilty of dangerous driving and deliberately blocking Schumacher in Barcelona, all of which saw the Briton handed the back of the grid penalty for this weekend. The ruling did not go down well with the 91 champ, who slammed the FIA before he vowed to win the race regardless. Tired of their poor results with Larousse, Peugeot then confirmed their partnership would end at the end of the year before F1 ringmaster Bernie Ecclestone promised rivals IndyCar that Nigel Mansell would be on the F1 grid in 1995 come what may. And it was finally confirmed that after months of struggle, Zaxbyt had closed its doors and had left F1 for good. For the rest, all the upgrades were confirmed first thing Friday morning before the action even began. Even with the absent Zaxbyt cars, Friday morning's 30-minute pre-qualifying session was sensational as usual, as the 5 teams and 10 drivers fought it out to post their average lap times of both team drivers. The 2 Bravo F1 cars looked alive from the start, and Jordi Genet went fastest early on, whilst David Coulthard and Simtek teammate Jean-Marc Gounon both struggled over the bumps of Montreal. In the end though, it was the Pacific Mugen Honda of Mika Salo yet again that ran out the fastest, with the Larousse of Bertrand Gachot in 2nd and the impressive veteran Michele Alboreto 3rd for Minardi. But it was Pacific, Bravo and Minardi who all made it through, whilst Larousse and Simtek unfortunately headed home. Friday's first qualifying session was sensational, with both Williamses of Hill and Senna out early, with the Brazilian immediately putting down a marker for the rest by going quickest but by the smallest of margins to Hill, who looked impressive. Elsewhere, and fueled by desire to win from the back on Sunday, Davis was driving like a man possessed, and although his lap times wouldn't count, he was going to the edge of the envelope and beyond it in his Ferrari. Schumacher meantime was struggling in the Benetton as the German lost over 45 minutes to an electrical issue, but was some way off Senna, who duly went on to claim provisional pole from Hill, with Prost claiming 3rd ahead of Schumacher, Alesi, Frentzen, and the 2 Saubers of Carl Wendlinger and JJ Leto in 7th and 8th, with Berger 9th and Mika Häkkinen rounding out the top 10 for McLaren. Afterwards, Senna was in confident mood that his speed would carry him through to the pole tomorrow and the race win on Sunday. Hill admitted he felt more comfortable in a car he has struggled with a lot this year, whilst Prost admitted his focus was on improving his race day setup as he still searches for his first win in his last year of racing as a driver. Saturday's final qualifying session saw the Saubers of Leto and Wendlinger continue to show well, with the fast nature of the circuit suiting their Mercedes engines, as Schumacher continued to improve also, going quickest halfway through the session, but still unable to match the pace of Prost from Friday, which left the battle for pole between the 2 Williamses. Ultimately though, Senna remained unchallenged, extending his lead in the dying moments, and the Brazilian ultimately went on to claim only his 2nd pole of the year ahead of Hill by 0.8 of a second. Further back, Jean Alesi in the second Ligier Prost claimed 5th behind his team boss, and Schumacher in 4th, with Fri&Sat a disappointing 6th, half a second off the pace, while at the back it was the unfortunate Pedro Lamy and Ukio Katayama who both failed to qualify, with Davis being relegated to 26th and last due to his penalty from Barcelona. Afterwards, Senna admitted his hopes were for a 3rd win of the year, with many finding it hard to bet against him. Hill meantime said his focus was on getting to the podium, whilst Prost prayed for reliability, which has been absent most of this year. Schumacher was in bullish mood though, insisting the fight for the win was still on, whilst Davis again vowed to go all out and attack from the back come 2 p.m. on Sunday. Later came the news that McLaren were trying to put together a dream team for 1995 in attempting to sign both Senna and Davis, all of which left Hakkinen in a confused state, with the Finn declaring he had a firm contract for next year. For his part, Davis admitted his wish is to extend his current deal with Ferrari into next year, but warned the team he needed a car capable of fighting for the title. So it's Ayrton Senna and Damon Hill on the front row, with Alain Prost and Michael Schumacher on row 2, Jean Alesi and Heinz-Harald Fri&Sat on row 3, row 4 is JJ Lehto and Carl Bendinger, row 5 is Mika Hakkinen and Gerhard Berger, row 6 is Eddie Irvine and Rubens Barrichello, row 7 is Martin Brundle and Johnny Herbert, row 8 is Olivier Panis and Jos Verstappen, row 9 is Gilles de Ferran and Derek Warwick, row 10 is Bernd Schneider and Michael Andretti, row 11 is Christian Fittipaldi and Pierluigi Martini, row 12 is Michele Alboreto and Mika Salo, and at the back it's Jordi Janay and Joey Davis, who starts 26th and last after his penalty. It's a cloudless blue sky in Montreal as the red lights come on, and the 69-lap Canadian Grand Prix is go! Senna gets off to a quite brilliant start from the pole as Hill gets away well in the second Williams, and look at Alesi's meteoric start, but into the first corner it's Prost goes through. So it's Alain Prost in the lead, in the Ligier Prost. The Frenchman is ahead of Senna, with Alesi in 3rd, it's Damon Hill in 4th, Fri&Sat is 5th, Berger is 6th, and Schumacher drops down to 7th in the first few corners. It's Vendinger in 8th, it's Barrichello 9th, and it's Eddie Irvine in 10th.
Yes, a quite superb start there from the 4-time world champion Alain Prost there. As we ride on board with Ayrton Senna now. Is Senna going to look to make the move? And he does. So Senna reclaims the lead from his arch-rival Alain Prost and eases off into the front of the field there, with Damon Hill still in 3rd place, and I suspect that Hill is going to be attacking. And he is! Hill! He goes through, so Prost goes from 1st to 2nd to 3rd. And there's Davis. He's already up into 16th. He passes Brundle for 15th. He tries to get around the inside of Johnny Herbert's Tyrrell, and he gets tapped by Brundle. And Herbert spins! Herbert spins. And Davis drops back to one of the Andretti Chevrolets. But back up front, it's Senna across the line for the first time. He's across the line ahead of his teammate Damon Hill, and he's 0.7 seconds ahead, with Prost 1.4 further back, Alesi in 4th, 1.6 seconds, and Fri&Sat 5th, 2.3, and Schumacher has passed Berger. But let's have a look at the start from Davis.
Yes, this is going to be quite interesting, I feel, as Davis starting 26 after his penalty imposed after the Barcelona Grand Prix, where he was deemed guilty of blocking Michael Schumacher unnecessarily so his penalty for this weekend was starting from 26th and last, and already you can see there he's up into 18th position there, possibly dropping back into 19th, trying to get underneath the footwork there of Olivier Panis there. So a good start from Davis there, just managed to keep himself out of trouble.
And that's Davis going past Eddie Irvine for 11th position. So Davis on lap 3, he's already up into 11th. Fantastic stuff. And he looks like he's going to try and attack Barrichello for 10th if he can. Into the hairpin as we continue to ride on board, and Barrichello runs wide. Barrichello's wide, and that blocks Vendinger. So Barrichello passed Vendinger, and that means that Davis is still in 11th. But he's now behind Carl Vendinger, and he will desperately be trying to get through as Damon Hill chases after Ayrton Senna, who still remains 1.3 seconds in the lead.
Yes, but Alain Prost is slowly dropping back, and there's Davis going underneath Vendinger's Sauber.
So Davis is up into 10th position on lap 4. He's already made up 16 positions. A quite extraordinary couple of laps there. But did we expect anything other than that from the Englishman? As he looks to go underneath Barrichello for 9th. And he does, and he goes through, and Barrichello almost runs out wide there. I fear he was just a little too late on the brakes and just missed his braking point. And Schumacher going past Sean Alesi there for 5th position. So a quite appalling start for Michael Schumacher in the Benetton there, with Davis attacking his teammate Gerhard Berger. And there's Jordi Janay in the Bravo F1. That's a very rare sight to see the Bravo and the Pacific cars, but it's fantastic to see them because Jordi Janay and Mika Salo deserve to be in Grand Prix racing. As Sean Alesi back up the front, he's defending against Davis, but Davis sells them the dummy, and he goes through on the inside, but Alesi just hangs it around the outside as well. But did Davis get through there? He certainly did, because Sean Alesi looks as though he may have run over some of the curbing on the exit of the corner, and Parnis. So Olivier Parnis just losing the back end of the footwork there and creaming into the wall, and hopefully he's not damaged the car too badly. And Davis and Schumacher, look at this, wheel to wheel, they're almost touching through the S's, but Davis goes through. Schumacher was not prepared to yield at all, and Davis loses it on the exit of the final corner, and Schumacher's going to bounce, and he goes through. So fantastic drama as Schumacher attacks Davis again, and he goes through, and Davis sticks it up the inside. This is fantastic stuff. What absolutely unbelievable racing we are seeing from Joey Davis and Michael Schumacher. They're battling over 5th position, but I think that Schumacher has probably lost the battle there, because Davis, I fear, is certainly going to be overtaking, and there he is. So unseen by us, Davis has passed the second Benetton there of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Senna with smoke billowing out of the back of his Williams. His Renault looks as though it's expired, because his teammate Damon Hill has inherited the lead, and Senna is coming to a crawling stop. Prost goes through, Davis goes through, Frentzen goes through, Schumacher goes through, and Senna. Is he going to pull over as Berger goes through as well? And Senna, he pulls off, and that's his first mechanical retirement of the year. And what a time to be getting it. That's not going to do his championship hopes any good whatsoever, as we see the Tyrrell of Johnny Herbert there, and this is the Ferrari of Davis attacking Alain Prost now for 2nd position, and Prost must have made a mistake somewhere, because that's enabled Joey Davis to get through and chase after Damon Hill now. And are we going to see, as Derek Warwick losing the back end of the Brabham, and he hits the Andretti of Michael Andretti, and has he put a hole in the side of that Andretti car as Davis goes through on the inside of Damon Hill. This is for the lead on lap 22. He started 26, I reiterate it again, and Davis, he's attacking Damon Hill, but Hill's going to try and make his Williams as wide as he possibly can. Scintillating stuff, look at this. Davis is trying to go through, he's weaving around, and he's through. He goes through, passes Damon Hill, and he takes the lead, but he wiggles out of the final corner. He got massive amounts of oversteer, and that's allowed Damon Hill to bounce, and he goes through. So Hill goes through and he covers the line. Fantastic defensive driving. Well, I've got to say that for the past few races, Damon Hill has certainly looked a little bit at sea. But today, this weekend, certainly, he has really been on it. They had a private test before the Canadian Grand Prix, and Damon Hill certainly looks as though he's getting to grips with that FW16. That was tremendously attacking driving and then defending into the first corner. But can he do anything about the Ferrari now? Because Davis is certainly going to be looking to get the toe and then try and make the overtake into the right-hander that's coming up. And he goes through. No, he doesn't. So Damon Hill again defending fantastically. But Davis has got the better acceleration out of the left-hander. And Hill had to yield. But Davis, the Ferrari boys are in the pits, and we think that that could be for Davis. Because surely he will have eaten up his tyres now. From the back of the grid, he now leads the race, and he runs wide. Yes, I suspect that we are going to see Davis come into the pits very shortly now, as Damon Hill looks as though he's gearing up for an attack. But Davis, I'm pretty sure, is going to stick to the left-hand side of the track as Martini comes in the Minardi. And Davis does break through, and he goes into the pit lane. And this is going to be fantastic. We're expecting 2 stops from everybody this weekend. And Davis, on lap 24, he's going to come in, and let's see how long his stop is, because that's already one of the Minardis in there. And he blocks him. He doesn't manage to get defended. He doesn't get held up there. But Davis is through. A fantastic wipe of the visor from the chief mechanic. But how long is this stop going to be for the fuel and the tyres? It's 9.5 seconds, so it's relatively slow. And where is Davis going to rejoin?
But meantime, it's Damon Hill, and that's Alain Prost. Yes, Alain Prost certainly looking as though he's going gun-ho on the attack on Damon Hill as they go through there, and the cameraman hasn't picked it up. And has Alain Prost gone through? I think he has, and he does. So Alain Prost now retakes the lead, and that's Jordi Genet's Bravo, with smoke blowing out of the back of it. It's properly on fire as Damon Hill, the race leader, comes into the pits. Yes, Damon Hill into the pits, and what is that going to do in terms of where Davis emerges after Damon Hill has had his pit stop? I think that was Heinz-Harald Frentzen there, passing Eddie Irvine it was. So Heinz-Harald Frentzen passing Eddie Irvine there for 7th position, and Alain Prost elects to stay out on track. And I can't help but feel that that could be a bit of a problem for the Ligier team, because I think that Davis on fresher tyres, and very much so with Damon Hill on fresher tyres as they come out into traffic, I think that that's really going to slow up Alain Prost on the 28th lap. And Davis has to negotiate his way around Pierluigi Martini as JJ Leto comes into the pits from 3rd place, with Schumacher trapped behind the Pacific of Mika Salo as they come across the line. And Alain Prost has come into the pits there, so there's Prost on lap 30 into the pits, and Schumacher now takes the lead. He's ahead of Davis, but Davis obviously has stopped and Schumacher still has not. And there's Joey Davis, so he's in the net lead with Damon Hill right behind him, and Alain Prost in 4th as Schumacher comes into the pits. So it's Schumacher into the pits, with Prost trying to get past the Minardi of Michele Alboreto. Fantastic drama here in Montreal. And have a look in 10th position there as we see Davis going across the line. It's Jos Verstappen in 10th place in the second Brabham, as we saw Derek Warwick slowing earlier as Schumacher emerges from the pit lane. So Schumacher emerges, but it's still Joey Davis in the lead, and there's Schumacher, we ride on board with him, and he's behind the Minardi of Alboreto, but he's up into 4th position. So it's Davis ahead of Hill, with Prost in 3rd, it's Schumacher 4th, and there's Christian Fittipaldi in the Arrows footwork, with smoke billowing out of the back, and he pulls over into retirement. And Gerhard Berger is in 6th place, and this is Prost on Damon Hill. So Prost goes through, he's up into 2nd place. Fantastic stuff. Yes, Alain Prost now, he's going to be certainly chasing about after Joey Davis there for the lead of the Grand Prix with Schumacher. So Schumacher has passed Damon Hill, unsighted by us, with Alain Prost surely going to be making the move now as he gears up, and Davis goes on the defensive. But Alain Prost, he pulls out, and at the last second he goes through. So Prost takes the lead. Davis defends the inside line and out. And Schumacher spins. They touch. Davis and Schumacher for the 2nd race in a row. And Schumacher is spun. He's stuck in the middle of the road. Has he managed to lose any of the transmission? Is he stuck in gear? Well, let's very much hope so. Is Schumacher just waiting for a gap in the traffic there? This is really going to be interesting stuff. Or has he stalled the gearbox? And Schumacher is out. My goodness me. So Ayrton Senna and both Michael Schumacher now are both out of the race. And that means that Alain Prost is into the lead with Davis in the Ferrari is right behind him. And they've both got one more stop to go. And we've got so many more laps of this fantastic action as Davis goes through on the inside. Prost tries to defend it, but he can't. Yes, he can, Prost. But Davis is on the outside. Look at this. They're side by side, and Prost just cuts him up. But Davis is going to try and go through into the right-hander. And he does. So Davis on lap 43 retakes the lead ahead of Alain Prost. My trousers are almost on fire because Davis is now going to have to defend into the hairpin. But it's too late. Prost has gone through. Yes, fantastic pass. And there's a little touch there with Damon Hill in 3rd position. So it's Alain Prost who retakes the lead from Davis. This really is fantastic Grand Prix racing. Absolutely one of the most exciting Grand Prix I think we've had all year, and possibly in the history of Formula 1. And it's not over because Davis is on the attack again. And he goes through. So Davis, and he almost loses it. My goodness me, what skill from the Englishman as they went across the line there. And Davis's lead is only 0.3 of a second, with Damon Hill looking to go through, and Prost goes through, and he hits Davis, and Davis, he goes off into the gravel, and he loses the right front part of his front wing, and that's a disaster for the Englishman. Yes, I don't think that there was anything that he could do about that, because Alain Prost's lunge was pretty late there, but I think that Davis was already committed to the corner. Prost certainly had slowed enough to make the corner, and I think it was just inevitable that the Frenchman just ran a little bit too wide there and tapped the Ferrari, pitched it into the air, and Davis has now had to come into the pits. And is that going to scupper his two-stop strategy?
but I fear that the Ferrari boys are far more intelligent than that and will most certainly have asked that he come in, they fix the nose, and then they give him more fuel and another set of tyres to see him good until the end of the Grand Prix. But in the meantime, Davis is now down in 8th position and Alain Prost is still in the lead. But there's a puff of smoke there with Prost absolutely pushing his Ligier as hard as he dare, with Damon Hill catching. He's 1.8 seconds further back in the Williams, with the Benetton of Fri&Sat in 3rd. Another decent performance from the German as Davis looks to go past Rubens Barrichello, and Davis goes through into 7th. So fantastic recovery from Davis, but has he lost any hope he had of getting the lead and winning this Grand Prix as Hill comes through, and you can see Prost peeling off into the pits. Yes, Alain Prost, the race leader, into the pits with JJ Leto into the pits. So Damon Hill is still circulating with Fri&Sat now up into 2nd position and Gerhard Berger in 3rd with Davis in 7th. And Davis is going to come across the line now, but where is he going to emerge? Is he going to be ahead of Alain Prost or is he going to be behind him? But Berger in 3rd as Barrichello comes into the pits. So Gerhard Berger, and that's Salo. Salo gets tapped by the McLaren of Martin Brundle, who's in 8th position there. And there's JJ Leto. So Leto with another sterling drive in the Sauber. But his teammate Carl Bendinger is in 4th place and has completely outshot him. And Hill's into the pits. So Damon Hill into the pits, and that's going to put Heinz-Harald Fri&Sat into the lead, with Gerhard Berger in 2nd place as Carl Bendinger peels off in the Sauber, so he comes in for his 2nd and final stop. But it's the battle between Prost and Davis that we really do want to see, and where is Damon Hill going to emerge after his pit stop? But what is going to happen with Fri&Sat, because they are leaving it very late in the Benetton pit? And do they know something that we don't, as Gerhard Berger comes in? So with 20 laps to go, it's Fri&Sat in the lead with Berger in the pits. In 2nd, he's going to drop down. Prost is ahead of Davis. So Prost has managed to get his way past the Ferrari of the 27 as we ride on board with Prost. And Fri&Sat is finally in with Derek Warwick in the Brabham. He's had a fantastic recovery into 11th position. But it means that Davis, he's behind Prost, and we ride on board now with the Englishman. And what is Alain Prost going to do here? Is he going to defend? No, he takes the racing line, and I think that was a mistake there from Prost. And that's going to give Davis the opportunity to pounce, and he doesn't. Davis elects to just stand behind the Frenchman as another Frenchman, Olivier Panis, retires in the 2nd footwork. So a terrible weekend for them. But back up front, Mr. TV Director, we really do want to see this battle, because Davis has now passed Alain Prost. So Davis is back into the lead with Damon Hill in 3rd. It's Heinz-Harald Fri&Sat in 4th. But Davis is under attack again. Look at this. With 13 laps to go, Davis has got to defend the inside. And he does. Fantastic stuff. Prost is still in 2nd place with Damon Hill a few seconds behind, and this is the replay of how Davis got the lead. Yes, you could just see that, an absolutely textbook pass there from Joey Davis. So thank you, Mr. TV Director, there for showing us that. Otherwise, I would have spent all night lying there just wide awake, wondering how on earth that number 27 Ferrari got past the Ligier of Alain Prost. But back up front, you can see that Davis is now full of his mirrors with Prost, Fri&Sat and Damon Hill. And this is fantastic stuff, because with only 8.5 laps to go, Davis is obviously struggling with his tyres, and Hill goes through. So Hill is past Heinz-Harald Fri&Sat. But back up front, Davis has got Alain Prost in full attack mode, and Prost has got the jump on him. Davis tries to defend the inside, but he has to move out of the way to avoid contact, and Prost just bails out of it. So Davis keeps the lead ahead of Alain Prost with Damon Hill in 3rd. It's Fri&Sat 4th. Berger is 7.4 seconds further back, and Carl Bendinger in 6th, but he's spinning. Oh my goodness, that's terrible for Carl Bendinger there. He's lost the back end of the Sauber, and he's going to fall back behind his teammate JJ Leto. So a little bit of an embarrassing spin there for the Austrian driver. Back up front. Prost and Davis are going at it hammer and tongs, and they were side by side through the left, through the right in the fast S's, and Davis is still in the lead with only 4 laps to go. It's Davis still in the lead as we ride on board with Prost. Prost is trying to go through on the inside, and who's going to be the last of the late breakers? And Davis just managed to hold it around the outside, and he's still in the lead. Fantastic stuff. With a look at the train of cars. Back to Gerhard Berger. It's 1.7 seconds as we ride on board with Martin Brundle, who's in 9th position in the McLaren. Yes, but look at this. Davis again. He's going defensive over Alain Prost now. He's got the inside line. Prost is absolutely not going to bother trying anything there. And I fear that Davis's tyres are now completely shot of all grip. I think he is completely bereft of any Goodyear tyre grip whatsoever, with Alain Prost now breathing all over his gearbox. And let's have a look and see how fast that Frenchman catches up to the Englishman. Look at him. All the way, he's got so much more grip, and I fear so has Damon Hill and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, because Davis was the first to pit, obviously when he damaged his front wing, and now he takes the defensive line. But is he going to be able to do anything? And Hill looks to make the move on Prost on the penultimate lap. Look at this. What fantastic drama as Davis gets a big tag slapper coming out of the left-hander. And he's now on the run down to the hairpin. And is Prost going to be able to do anything about it? He pulls out and he tries to make the move. Fantastic defensive driving there. We could witness that from Damon Hill. But Davis just lights up the car. And the power of that V12 Ferrari just accelerates him down the straightaway, with Damon Hill coming under fierce competition from Prost and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 4th position. Can the German go through? He can't. It's Davis ahead of Damon Hill. I have to correct you there. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is now up into 3rd position, and this is the final lap, so this is going to be absolutely scintillating stuff. And you can see how much faster Damon Hill is under the brakes there into the first complex. And is Davis going to now be able to keep Damon Hill behind him? This will be sensational finishing to the Canadian Grand Prix. Davis has got absolutely no grip in the Ferrari. He's got Damon Hill's Williams now bearing down on him very fast, and Davis with big oversteer and big tyre smoke, and again coming out of the right-hander. And is that going to give Damon Hill the chance to pounce? Because Davis is going to try and block it on the inside. Fantastic defensive driving there from Davis. This really is scintillating stuff. And again, more tyre smoke as Davis applies the power in the V12 engine, and he's going to have to go defensive now. And Damon Hill, he's got no option but other than to try and go through. And yet again, there's more smoke from Davis. And Damon Hill, there's still no opportunity to go through. What a scintillating finish to the Grand Prix this is. But this is it. The final rundown now. They're through the S's, through the right, they're through the left, they're through the right-hand kick, and Hill is closing. Davis goes defensive, Hill goes to the inside, and he's through, and Hill is through, but Davis comes back. Fantastic stuff. Joey Davis comes out of the final corner. He weaves, and he takes the most incredible win in one of the most fascinating and exciting Canadian Grand Prix, and one of the most exciting Grand Prix of all time. Fantastic stuff. What a race. Davis has now won 22 races in his illustrious career, and there can be little doubt his win today from 26th and last was emphatically his best yet. Hill was back on form, and his impressive second place finish behind the Ferrari star was well deserved as he continues his battle in the championship with Frentzen, who took another fine podium, finishing 3rd. Despite hopes he could win before the lights went out, Prost claimed a decent 4, losing out over the closing laps as he focused on bringing the car home, with Berger taking 5th ahead of the impressive Lato, Barrichello, Wendlinger, and the British pair of Brundle and Herbert, who took the final points, paying 10th place in a race that saw 16 classified finishers. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Davis also claimed the extra bonus point for the fastest lap ahead of Frentzen, Prost and Hill, with Schumacher over a second off the pace before his clash with Davis and subsequent retirement. On the podium, a delighted Davis sprayed the champagne as he celebrated and took in the magnitude of what he had accomplished, and dedicated his win to all his Ferrari fans and the Tifosi. Hill rejoiced in his return to form and was quick to congratulate the winner after their captivating battle in the closing laps. And while frustrated to have missed out yet again on his debut win, Frentzen admitted he was content with his 4th podium in 6 races. In the standings, Schumacher stays top and extends his lead by a point over Senna, as Frentzen's consistency sees him now only 7 points away from his Benetton teammate, with Hill 4th, and Davis leaps back into 5th, now only 29 points away after his supreme win. In the constructors' standings, Williams closed the gap to leaders Benetton by 2 points, as Ferrari jumped back in front of Ligier Prost for 3rd, whilst McLaren have Sauber chasing them hard in 6th after the Swiss team's decent haul of points this weekend. Next up, we head back to Europe and to the snooker table smooth Manicourt circuit, where good car balance and horsepower are the name of the game. With Benetton due to receive their penalty for being found guilty of using traction control earlier in the year,
Have we seen the last of them this season, as there remains the very real possibility that the team and drivers Schumacher and Frentzen may be banned for Magny-Cours and even for the rest of the year? Can Senna capitalise on his now obvious speed and grab his third win of the year, or will Davis begin his climb back into contention of what is without doubt one of the greatest championship battles ever? It all promises to be a dramatic few weeks, but for now, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for the 7th round of the 1994 Formula 1 World Championship and the French Grand Prix.